This panel discussion will be moderated by Horacio Fragola of Farm Products Argentina. The panelists include Tomás Ramsfelde. Tomás had joined Olega in 1966 and is now its president and chief executive officer since 1990. He's been trading in peanuts and pulses since the early 1970s, and he has led Olega to become a recognized player in the international market. Over the years, his market analysis has been greatly consulted and much wanted by both customers and international traders. He is also the founder and current member of Pulses Chamber of Argentina. That's Tomás Ramsfelde. Joining Mr. Ramsfelde on the dais is Daniel Lin. Daniel was a teacher earlier at the Tianjin Institute of Foreign Trade and has been active in the pulses trade for about close to 20 years. We welcome Daniel to the dais. Next to Daniel is the founder chairman of Mufaddal Food Industries Egypt, Mr. Abid Ali. Mufaddal Food Industries is an international trading, processing and distribution company with 3 facilities and a storage capacity of more than 100,000 metric tons and a daily processing capacity of 1,200 metric tons. The company and its affiliates specialize in the trade of pulses, grains, beans, rice, sugar, tea, spices, nuts and herbs for the Middle East and North African markets very specially. Kevin Sawchuk from the Merchant Pulse Crops of North America, Viterra, is a product of Western Canada, and he merchandises white beans, colored beans, chickpeas for Viterra and Glencore. He has had much experience in the field. Related experience include processing plant and equipment design and implementation of ISO and HACCP quality management systems. Henk van Leeuwen has been on days with us before, and we welcome him again. Henk is from Cogessa, France, and he brings to this days great experience as a business associate based out of Paris. Welcome, Henk van Leeuwen. This is going to be moderated by Horacio Fragola, CEO, Farm Products, and Commercial Manager, Alicampo SRL, Argentina. Mr. Fragola steps on stage with his vast experience in this brokerage company, specializing in Argentine products. He's also partner and commercial manager for Alicampo SRL, one of the top 5 sellers of Argentine popcorn and confectionery sunflower seeds. Alicampo, the company, is active in pulses, working closely with many producers, besides, of course, having its own facilities for processing. Mr. Horacio Fragola is also the General Secretary of the Argentinian Chamber of Legumes and a member of the Argentinian Chamber of Popcorn Exports. So, ladies and gentlemen, this panel on white beans, sponsored by Simpson Seeds. I hand you over to your moderator, Horacio Fragola.
Welcome, everybody. First of all, I have to announce that Mr. Henk is not feeling well, so he's not going to be with us. Here we are going to discuss about white beans. Our speakers are representing Argentina, China, Egypt, and North America. So, let us hear our first speaker, Mr. Tomás Ramsfelde.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will start giving you some facts of Argentina which are of interest to understand better some of the facts in our bean market. Argentina has a population of about 42 million people. The gross product of Argentina is about $490 billion at the official exchange rate. Argentina is a small consumer of alubia beans and exports most of its production. Alubia beans are highly appreciated by the main white bean consumers of the world. Some economical facts which have a certain importance in the day-to-day business in Argentina in the in the export market in general. The inflation in Argentina has been for the last 2-3 years of about 25 to 30% per year. The exchange rate and the current devaluation has been between 15 and 18% and even below the last couple of years, so the dollar exchange rate has been far behind the inflation. The unofficial exchange rate at this time is about 60–65% above the official market. We call it the blue market. Banks are paying in savings account negative interest rates a couple of points below inflation and far less compared to the exchange rate. As a conclusion, this is no incentive at all for farmers to sell their goods unless they need money, which is one of the major reasons for them to sell, or they may have excellent price levels. ¿Lo estás pasando vos? No, está bien, está bien. Argentine exports of alubia beans the last couple of years. In 2009, the exports reached a volume of about 158,000 tons. This is always measured from January to December, not really in what we call the crop year. In 2010, the exports reached 168,000 tons. In 2011, almost 170,000 tons. And in 2012, 148,000 tons. Here you may see the main destinations of alubia beans, our export markets. In the last couple of years, Algeria has become the major importing country of alubias. Spain follows. Italy has been the third, although in the last couple of years as well, Turkey, with a certain, some years bigger, some years less, has become a very important partner as well for alubias. Then comes Portugal. Brazil has increased its purchases in Argentina in the last couple of years and growing. France afterwards, and then we have a couple of other markets which also are significant altogether. In the next page, I will show you the first figures we had of exports of Argentina in January, February, which are official figures. You may read them over there, and the balance of exports of the current crop 2012, which we assume will be around 5,000 to 8,000 metric tons. So this will be, at least at this point, the export for this year, for the beginning of this year, around 31,000 to 33,000 tons of the crop of last year. We will not have any carryover whatsoever, and of course, big question mark for the exports of the July-December of this season, which will have to do with the new crop. These figures we will show now are the figures, at least in some extent, of what should have been a certain forecast of this year's situation. The planted hectares were around 120 to 140,000 hectares. The average yield which we expected is around 800 to 1,000 kilos, which we thought a couple of days ago was a chance that may be achieved. In that case, if we take the range between less and maximum possibilities, we would have had 96 to 140,000 tons of total production. The waste, seed, and domestic takes care for around 30,000 metric tons, which would leave for exports minimum, maximum 66 to 110,000 metric tons. But here comes the very big question mark now of what's happening these days with the Argentine crop. Pasa. This is a situation in which this year the Argentine crop has been planted and faced from the very beginning. The crop started very complicated from the beginning due to lack of moisture during January and February, which left the land without subsoil moisture. Only 30% of the acreage was planted in the second half of February with very low moisture levels for that area which was planted. Then some scattered showers gave the chance between the 10th and the 15th of March to allow the balance of the plantings, which ended around the 25th of March and accounted for the balance of the total area to be planted of about 70%. Since the plantings ended around the 25th of March, we had no rains and permanently high temperatures. The crop is under great pressure at this point, and it is difficult to foresee outcome if weather conditions do not change. At this time, the weather forecast for all of this week and part of the next is still showing no signs of chances of rains. So the crop result of this season, as I put there, may be highly disappointing. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Now we are going to hear the presentation from Mr. Daniel Lin from China.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My great honor to share some information with you. So, talking about China white beans, and it is compared with alluvias, which is a huge quantity. So some years it could be 150 metric tons. China, in each variety, it might be 20, 30, not more than 40,000. But China do produce around 9 to 10 variety or kind of beans. So, start with large white kidney beans. It is the largest white beans among the family of white beans. It is produced in Yunnan province in China. Caliber is between, the biggest caliber could be 38 grains, and the smallest could reach to 140. But the majority is 55, 65, 85, and sometimes 110. And this is typical beans consumed by first Japan and some of the European countries. The total quantity is around, as an average, is between 15,000 to 20,000. And due to the, actually this kind of beans is almost large, or majority of the large white is exported to European countries, and domestic consumptions in the previous years is low. But now, due to the recognition of the nutrition factor of the beans, and now the domestic consumption of large white sharply raised. So now the price almost fixed it, not by international market, but by the domestic consumption, domestic market. And even though as an import country like Poland now start to offer small calibers or some different calibers to China. So China will be a buyer again in large white. Secondly, it is, we have from Yunnan, there is a white beans flat type. It is also a large, comparatively a bit large item, large caliber. The largest could be 135 grains, 145 grains, is sometimes up to, the smallest was 210. And this is a very small item. It is mostly for Greek market and sometimes go to Turkey. It is only 1,500 metric tons. One of the small copy of alubias is what we called Yunnan origin, but long shape. In the history, it could be the total quantity, for example, in 15 years back, it could be 30,000, and it's a very important crop. Now, due to the competition of, in quality-wise and price-wise from Argentina, the production reduced sharply. And more important, this is alarming for the importer, because we are selling to Europe, and now we have 3 cases of insects. We have called back 2 containers from Portugal, and we stopped 1 shipment to France, because some of the area, before we can judge by the origin, from county to county, which some of the area is free from insects. Now, due to the general warming of climate reason, and the insects spread everywhere. So, and it's not, you cannot kill by the fumigation or other method. So it's bring a very large, very big risk for the importers. So we recommend importers or exporters to be very careful for this insect problem. Especially this goes to canners, or it's going to be a disaster when it's a live insect was found. And then it's another very popular item is white bean Japanese type. It is a small cousin or brother of green northern beans. When it was introduced to China about 12 years back, the caliber is 280 grains or 300 grains, and the color is very good. Now, because it's a pity we do not have very professional seeding system, so the quality is decreased, especially the caliber. Now the regular popular we get is 350 grains, maximum we get 330 grains. It is very well sold to the country like Turkey, Algeria, and large part it's go to Egypt and Eastern Europe countries. But nowadays, because of the price, it's raised too fast. For some canners in Europe, they already divert to some other item like green northern. They come back to green northern again. But still, it's remain as a very large quantity compared with other white beans in China. Normally, we have 25 metric tons as a total production for export. This year, because of even the price is not so raised so sharp compared with other beans, but it's still good market. So we're expecting something like 30,000 metric tons. And then we come to the another 2 variety, which is similar to alubias. One is what we call Beshake type. It is a long shape, and it is the caliber is between 330 up to 400. And this beans is now very well accepted by canners. Its appearance is not as good as Japanese type. Is always a bit yellowish, greenish, and especially the shape is not very uniform. But the canners always find which is cook well, and the appearance is much better than Japanese type. So many canners or importers now divert from Japanese type to Beshake for the canning industry. And this one, because of this, also because of the price issue and the weather issue, because last year we have also extremely weather problem, the drought. So, especially in flowering time in June and harvest time in September, we miss too much rain, so the yield is very bad and the total production is reduced. But this year we will have around 35 to 40,000 metric tons, which is considered a very large crop compared with last year and compared with average level. And another item, very similar to Bershake, it is Spanish type. Actually, this one is more or less looks like the real Alubias, because the caliber is from 220 grains to 240 grains. Also, some of the producers or farmers recalibrate Bershake and get Spanish type. And this one, if the crop of Argentina is not as is because the weather is reduced, it will be very important alternative for Alubias because the caliber is very similar. And we still have a typical variety is square shape, white bean square shape. And this one, it is very well accepted about 10 years back on Egyptian market and Turkish market because of the appearance. Another unfortunate delay because of the seeds is not very well generated, and so the quality and especially the whitish color is gone. Always we receive some greenish. It's not very well accepted by the original market. So the quantity is reduced sharply, but still this year we can get 5,000 metric tons. Another crop is navy beans. We do have navy beans in China, but it is, and the production is important. Some years we can get 30,000, like we expected to get this year 30,000. But normally, compared with Ethiopia pea beans, it is the difference on price is too important. Sometimes it's about $300. So not the importer is buying and selling, but we have some special orders for local canners, for the large international group who can produce candy in China and distribute internally. So this is the more or less the varieties and the quantities in China. In general, that we have a competition. If you talk about pulses, we have always a competition from the 4 major crops, especially maize and soya, which people get subsidy about 1 hectare. Farmers normally get 80 euros from government. And also, during the 2 years, the price of maize and soil is very stably on higher level. Thus, so acreage-wise, we don't have too much room to increase. But of course, I don't know if the farmer can get the information that Argentina crop is not so good. They can still catch the season of seedling to produce more. I have a question mark. But even though we know the room to increase the yield, increase the acreage is not big. And moreover, compared with crop like LSKB, which increased 50% compared with last year on the price, and dark red, 40% more than last year. The white beans only increased 20% from last year. I'm not going to indicate the price precisely because we trade the whole year. It's not so easy to identify one price on one time. But the increase rate compared with other colored beans is small. So in general, farmers are not very motivated to increase too much about white beans. But still, we hope we can have a hope because last year the weather is extremely not abnormal. So if this year, so far we heard is that we have much more than normal year for rain and snow. Still today, the farmland, last week before we are reaching Singapore, we heard and there are heavy snow still. Its temperature is about averagely 5 degrees less than normal year. And we are expecting continuous rain in another month. But normally, if the rain could stop and the weather could be reasonable until beginning of June, we still can think about a reasonable weather. And especially if the rain and snow already make the moisture in the soil in the good level, we can expect a better yield than average year. So in general, the quantity will a little bit bigger. So I think if it's a pity that, of course, for Argentina crop is that, but maybe it will push the market up, and it will be some chance, some opportunities for Chinese farmers to make some money. And this is a good point, because if they make good money, they can be motivated to increase or to maintain the acreage, so we can have still, China could be still an important supplier of white beans to the world. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mr. Saifuddin, who is going to talk about Egypt situation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I speak to you about the Egyptian white bean crop. It has become a very significant force in the world markets as we see the Egyptian crop from year to year increasing in size because of better prices, new plantings, and generally we are not suffering from the calamities of bad weather that we hear in Argentina and China. Because from 2009, the new plantations have resulted in the Egyptian crop increasing from about 60,000 tons up to today, the last crop was about 85,000 tons. And we expect, because of the high prices, no carryover, and a very, very good return to the farmers, a much higher planting for the coming season. The plantings were done around February, early March, and the expectations are there should be almost a 50% increase in acreage and plantings. There are no official statistics from Egypt, but these are field studies, and we expect that the coming crop we could have over 100,000 tons. We have basically two types of beans. The majority of the beans come out in June, May, June, and it's called the summer crop. It has a very low moisture, much better quality, and the balance, 25%, comes out in December, and that's known as the winter crop. The average size of our beans come from 180 to 280, and the exportable quality is the 190 to 220. Our main markets are Algeria and Iraq and the neighboring Arab countries. We have a lead time over Argentina of about 3 weeks and maybe another 4 weeks of shipping period. So we expect the coming crop to be taken off very fast because all the Arab countries have no carryover, and Egypt serves the Arab destinations very well for Ramadan. The prices we have seen, and that has been the main reason for the upsurge in the plantings. We have seen from $950 up to our last old crop trading as high as $1,700. Our traditional markets have been Iraq, Algeria, and all the neighboring Arab countries. We don't have, our quality has improved drastically because as we have gone along, the government has given incentives, and we see that our Egyptian beans are being more and more accepted, and traditionally we are now going to be hopefully having a very good season. But of course, one doesn't know how the prices will come because there is no forward selling and no mechanism for hedging forward sales. I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
And now our last speaker is Mr. Kevin, who is going to illustrate about the situation in USA and Canada.
Thank you, Horatio. Thank you to the committee for the invitation, and good afternoon. Nice to see so many here after lunch. I'll quickly go through the North American supply situation for white beans, but for the purpose of this meeting, I think it's important and probably appropriate to present separately the navy bean or small white bean supply and then the Great Northern or medium caliber white bean separately. Because for those of you that are trying to make estimations about potential supply and then later on price discovery, they do need to be separated because, of course, with the navy beans, the intended purpose is different and the ultimate destination markets are very few and well known. So we will go through them that way. March 28th was USDA's first estimate of total bean acres in the US. Stats Canada will not release a publication until late April, but really in our industry we have very good mechanisms for estimating grower intentions. So at this time of year we already have a very good estimate or very good feel of what is likely to occur. When we look at first the navy bean production and expectation, going back to my comment on USDA, their overall estimation is at this time a 17% reduction in all beans, which would capture color beans as well as white beans, so it's not specific. But we'll break that out and look at how it'll impact the two classes of white beans only today. So in the case of navy beans, we really only need to look at 3 states and 2 provinces, which all border each other. If we look at Michigan, Minnesota, and North Dakota, and then across the border in Canada, Ontario and Manitoba, we can capture essentially all of the navy bean production regions. So when we're making assumptions about grower intentions, factors like competing crops or competitive factors, we can typically apply very similar logic to all of this region. So when we talk about the influence of corn and soybean acres, it is a factor for all of these regions. Today I can tell you that many of the suppliers in this room and people who are now starting to contract new crop acres, starting to make seed sales, starting to make projections, would likely suggest that the decrease in navy beans for new crop is something more in the order of 30%. So we could see a significant amount of reduction there. The first slide here is really nothing more to show that in the last 4 crop cycles we've had no catastrophic events where we've had a significant crop wreck. So it's a very typical cycle of modest oversupply to modest undersupply. And when we put when we overlay it with what is quite a static demand in navy beans, a lot of times in North America we're measuring or talking in bags, so 6 million bags per year is quite static. In 2011 you would see a little bit of demand rationing due to high prices, but in general you can make assumptions. When you take the domestic market of 2.5 million bags, another 2.2 for the UK and North Europe, and then maybe another 600,000 bags for the Italian canning market, very quickly you can already come up with 90% of this market. So what's available for other markets is actually quite small. What may stand out here is, if you look at this year, 2012, yields were quite strong in North America this year, probably above average in just about all regions. So when you look at a carryout of 25% or maybe a little more on navy beans, you may be inclined to make some assumptions about what that might mean for new crop pricing. But an important consideration is that a lot of that carryout will not be suitable for its intended purpose because it is a very dry product at this point, high splits and seed coat cracks. So as we see this trend into 2013, on today's estimations, getting a little bit tighter on the supply side, you may actually have to take a lot of that carryover supply out of the canning intention and look for other uses. So the ultimate tightness may be more than it would appear here. If we move to look at the Great Northerns, this really for North America is one dominant region, one dominant state in Nebraska. Certainly there are some bordering production, but just about all of the production will come out of there. Typically, you know, we'll see up to 60,000 tons from that state alone. And then when we move into Canada, it is a western production in Alberta, much smaller production, maybe 13 or 14,000 tons. Is typical from that region. Now this product, typically of a caliber, you know, approximately 300 grains per 100 grams. So that's the reason we're all very interested in the comments from Argentina, Turkey, Syria, these regions, because this is a product that is influenced, and its opportunities for incremental demand will often come as a result of the situation in Argentina. Production there you see actually again in the last 4 crop cycles quite similar, and when you overlay usage and then carry-out stocks, you see again in 2011 with high prices some rationing and some carry there. But as is well known today, medium and large caliber whites are essentially to 1% carry or a negligible carry, and the outlook for the coming year is in fact very, very similar. It will be tough to restore an empty pipeline, even if things do improve in other regions. As Tommy mentioned, we can still expect medium and large caliber whites to be very tightly supplied. It's the comments you heard related to other commodities, lentils, peas, some of the concern with cold weather and still snow cover. Is this a concern for bean regions? Yes, it's a lot of the same regions, but it's too early to make those connections, because for beans in North America, the majority of the planting will not occur for another 5 to 7 weeks. So there is still time for weather to improve and support these plantings as expected. And when we speak specifically to the Great Northerns, in the area of Nebraska, the comment is actually quite the opposite. Their concerns are with overall dryness, availability of water for irrigation on the new crop, and if they are going to commit those water supplies to high-use crops like corn and others, that may come as a surprise to you that there isn't a bigger increase on a white bean that was well supported, had good liquidity and movement through the past year. It's the reason we actually see only a level production intention. So unlike the navy beans, where we're looking at maybe a 25 or 30% reduction at this time, we would expect Great Northern beans to be very similar, or even maybe marginally up just by 1% or 2%. The slide doesn't reflect increased production, because last year yields were just marginally above long-term averages, so more of a typical estimate has been applied to this slide. I'll leave it there. That should get us back on schedule, and then we can field any questions from you after that. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our speakers. And according to your presentations, I prepared some questions for you. The first question is for Tommy. In one of your slides, we see that you said that this year the market and you are going to be so disappointing. Why do you consider that this crop may be so disappointing?
The reason to not to be encouraged with this crop, it's because a lot of arguments have come together to give us a potential bad crop. For the first time in history that I can remember, the problem is all over the area. There is no good area at all which is better than the other. We have a lack of moisture on the 100% of the total area of beans, soya beans, corn, and whatever has been planted in the northern west area of Argentina. That brought together that there was no subsoil moisture at all in all the area, because for the last 3 months there was practically no rains. And in order to add bad situation is that we planted with very, very low moisture, and this lack of rain after the plantings has become a lethal situation, because from the beginning to the end we are without moisture, and the plants have no capacity to survive if there is no radical change, which doesn't look so.
And could this situation generate any problems in the fulfillment of the existing contracts?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that Argentina has an excellent tradition of being a market which has always been serious and has always committed to its contracts, and we would try to continue that way. However, this is a situation that we never lived before. This will probably bring extraordinary situations that will have to be confronted in a different way. We fear that, that if really we come up to a total disaster, which is very much possible, we will see that farmers will be very, very desperate to cover themselves first with seed. And of course that will be overreacted, and there will be a lot of whatever crop there may be, there will be a lot of that beans will be kept for seed purposes. Okay?
Okay, good. Next question is for Mr. Daniel. In the last years, you explained that China is reducing their export volumes. Can you explain why? And if you consider that this situation could change?
Could you repeat again? What is the question?
That in the last years, you explained that China is reducing their export volumes. If you can explain why, and if you consider that this situation could change.
Well, it's a pity, because China, since 28 years, is becoming a very important supplier of different variety of kidney beans, especially white beans. We are major suppliers, but due to the reasons that China is not anymore a cheap country. If you talk about policies in general, of course, white beans is one of them. Our labor is not anymore zero cost. But 20 years back, 15 years back, we are thinking the labor is zero cost, because farmer does not have a exist idea of salary, because they sell the beans and get paid. Now, the young generations, the young farmers, can compare, because they have their friends, relatives working in the city. They have $300 per month, $400 per month as a salary. So everybody take into consideration there's a labor cost when you're planting beans. Secondly, the cost of land. Normally in China, we do not have, the land is belong to government, but farmers, individual families, get the right to use it for 30 or 70 years. Before, and even I think before 10 years, the government is withdraw the agriculture tax. So basically, theoretically, there is no cost for land, but in the country, now because of civilization, most of people move to city. And the land, they live there, rent to the other people. So people, the producer or the farmers will pay a rent fee for the land, plus the transportation, storage, logistic, and so on and so forth. Small fertilizer cost. In general, the overall cost of Chinese beans is higher. And this is a pity for the industry. And I think in the coming years, it will not going to decrease, because some of the item is also, people realize it is a very healthy food, and even traditionally, some Chinese only take once every year for the congee, for if they consume about pulses. But now, it's not like every day, but every week, people take them. So the domestic consumption is growing. This will support some of the items like large white. And secondly, it is already reached to the lower level, even with the subsidy which the maize producer, the soya producer, even with the subsidy they get. But some of the area, because China is a big country, if you look at the map, but different from Australia, Canada, America, the land is very, very individual. Especially the pulses land is quite small. Every family gets 1 hectare, half hectare, that's all. So there's no way to plan, people cannot enjoy an economic skill if you plant the major crop like maize. And some of the area, because we have a line, agricultural experts saying that we have a 400 mm rain line. So to some of the area, there's no cultivated condition, there's a watering system does not exist, and we rely on the rain and the weather. So there's no choice but to plant pulses, white beans. So this will provide the situation that certain minimum quantity will always remain in China, even the price is down. But the prices, of course, is higher. So China will be the current crop or current production or current export production will be very stable, and maybe due to the decrease of the crop in Argentina, maybe it will be a bit slightly increase, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, we are practically out of time, so I will leave the last 2 minutes to any question from the public to our panelists.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Abidali, and I would like him to comment on the risk of insect infestation, that is bean weevil infestation on the Egyptian alubias, both for the summer and the winter crop, please. Thank you.
The risk of infestation for the summer crop is very minimal, and one shouldn't worry about that. But definitely for the winter crop, there could be, because of moisture issues, because we have higher moisture and the weather conditions are not that suitable during the winter for storage, etc., there is possibility. So it is recommended that the summer crop is the more preferred crop for export.
Question for Mr. Lin. Do you think there is enough seeds for alubia types to be planted now due to the problem with Argentina and to increase the production in China for the next crop?
Yes, the answer is yes. Because of again, the market for white beans is not as crazy as other items like speckled. So we still can find some quantity, some carryover with several hundred live in a pot, live in a peddler's stock. And normally in China, there's no seeds, no special seeds. So the normal product can be reused, can be bought back by the farmers to use the seed. So it could be possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gentleman next to Kevin, Mr. Abdali. To Daniel Lim, United Brokers. And last but not the least, the very venerable Thomas Ramsfelde. And on behalf of the organizers, sir, for you, thank you so much. Thank you.